On the latest episode of Getting to Know Jew, we speak with Adam Weindling. Weindling is a real estate professional at Terra Management, a family business, where he runs his own part of the company called Kinner Properties. So we chat about what real estate in Kansas City is like, his family's Holocaust survivor background, and being involved in the Jewish Federation's Real Estate Professionals Group. Hi, Adam. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me here. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
So let's start with the Kansas City Jewish Federation's Jewish Real Estate Professionals Group. Can you just say a little bit of sort of how you got involved in the group and what it's been like?
I would have to say my mentor, Howard Jacobson, got me into it. He's a prominent leader in the Jewish community, and Annie Glickman has been, putting on really good events that people would want to attend. So that makes it pretty easy to want to be involved.
What kind of stuff have you been doing? Like, can you talk a little bit more about the events and what the engagement's been like?
We've had a few events. First one I went to was at the 1900 building, building that Carbank remodeled, and Carbank actually led the discussion there. He talked about growing his real estate empire in Kansas City and, about the different generations. And it was really informative and cool to see somebody at that level at such an intimate setting.
Mm-hmm. And what's as a group, are you mostly focused on just sort of, networking with other professionals, or is there an aspect of fundraising for, getting involved in the philanthropy side of things as well with the group?
Right now it's kind of my first involvement with the Jewish Federation and all of those kind of entities. So I'm just kind of naturally a curious person, and maybe I will get more involved as the future goes on.
Why do you, or did you feel it's important as a professional to sort of engage with these entities to sort of be involved in this group?
I think that there are a lot of interesting people in Kansas City. The Jewish community is very strong, especially in real estate, it seems like. My family business does things one certain way, and other businesses do things another way. So it's just, it's exciting to learn what others are doing, because maybe you'll change your philosophies by learning from somebody else, or be able to collaborate with other people in the future.
And just sort of rewind a little bit and zoom out. Tell us about Terra Management and Kinner Properties, which we're involved in, and this is like the family business, right?
Correct, yeah. So Terra Management is a company that my dad started before I was born. I'm 31 years old. So we own apartment buildings and commercial buildings in Kansas City. Most of our portfolio, probably about 80% of it, are apartments and homes. And then the other 20% are commercial locations. The past year or two, some of our cool projects, we've done a couple of coffee shops. We did Oddly Correct most recently, which is at 4141 Troost, and they're doing an incredible job. We did Cafe Corazon, which was just rated the number 33 coffee shop in the world on Yelp. And we built the Snooze AM Eatery, which is a cool place. And then I kind of have my own business within the family business. It's Kinner Properties. I started out as an Airbnb business. Didn't really like the clientele of Airbnb, the weekend guests who just kind of come to trash things. So during the pandemic, I switched to 30-day minimums. And now I really travel or cater towards travel nurses and, business guests, people moving to town, buying new homes. So I get, people staying anywhere from 30 days to 2 years. And I find that it's a better client base. And since I have so many of these, it's easier for me to manage.
Just to ask, how'd you get into sort of the traveling nursing sort of market specifically? Was that just you realized a lot of them were traveling around during the pandemic, or was there something specific you went like, I want to help nurses sort of get here a little bit more easily?
Well, going back, the reason I got into the, the midterm rental Airbnb type thing is I had a friend, David Smart, another great Jew in the community that you'll have to interview on the podcast. He had a massive house in Midtown, and he had a little guest house next to it. And it was not the most desirable place to live, this guest house, but he was getting guests. And I was like, wait a second. If he's getting guests and making money here, I have a lot of opportunity with the assets I currently have to, make some really nice places for people. And that ended up happening. And it got bigger. And then I got into I found nurses through Airbnb. And then I was like, wow, I love these guests because they're hardworking. They're usually, hardworking man or woman that come in. They're here to work. They get paid by the hospitals. The hospitals give them a stipend for rent. And they've all been wonderful people. I mean, if you're a nurse, you got to be a wonderful person because that's hard work. And, they're not getting paid enough. And so they're just good people. And it's been a win-win. I have a lot of customers that when they find me, they're like, wow, I wish I would have known about you sooner because you just make this whole process so easy. And I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of great people. Definitely, don't get me wrong, I've had some absolute nightmare guests as well.
And so sort of talking about that family aspect, could you say a little bit about like your background in Kansas City in the sense of like you're a Kansas City born and raised to a Jewish family that's been there for a while, right?
Yeah, so originally my grandparents moved here after the Holocaust. They both survived what was a terrible time, and they came to America with no money in their pockets, probably just holes, and they made their way. They had some family or friends in Kansas City. They made their way here, and I'm very fortunate that they went through the sacrifice to get where they are and to lead me where I am today.
And there's sort of an anecdote on the Terra Management website about, I think your grandfather sort of kicked off this whole real estate thing in the family by, buying a place in the 1960s. Can you say a little bit more about sort of what's it like growing up with those two things, like Judaism and the Holocaust background and real estate? Like, how does that define kind of your life and trajectory?
I don't know that the two, Judaism and real estate, are like necessarily have to be together. I think that just those two helps. It's like, if you're going in to talk to a banker or another business person and they're both Jewish, we share these common bonds of having been persecuted for years. It's almost already like their family. So it just takes a little bit of that edge off. Obviously, they're going to want to look at financials and everything else about your business before anybody makes a decision, but it definitely helps in that arena. And what was your other question?
Sort of how the Jewish aspect also comes in. Like how does that define, I guess, I don't know, how does Judaism define your daily life and the kind of work that you're doing? Like, what are you sort of taking away from that heritage and your background?
I think Judaism, I think kind of the point of all religions is to be a good person and be the best person you can be. Something we have at Terra Management and at my company, Kinner Properties, is we want to be, 5-star property managers, 5-star hosts. And that takes a lot of work to care for your properties and your tenants. A lot of property management companies you'll see on Google reviews, they have 2-star reviews because people don't really care. You've got out-of-state owners. We're local. We spend more money on renovations than we should. And, I have about 30 midterm rentals, furnished rentals in town, and I have super host status on there with all of those. So, I'm really not happy unless my clients are happy. So I think that's tying that back to Judaism is just, what you learn in Hebrew school, be good to others and other good things will happen to you.
And I'm also curious, since you're on the call, you're in real estate. Real estate is kind of an interesting market right now because the housing prices skyrocketed and then things seem to be coming down right now. Like, what's your, if you can share, what's your kind of outlook on real estate right now? How are things looking in Kansas City? What can listeners maybe take away in terms of practical advice as they're sort of looking out at this?
Yeah, so obviously right now you have interest rates rising, which your loan payments are going to be bigger. So it's going to scare buyers away from the market. We've seen tremendous increases in real estate prices. A couple of years ago, everybody was saying, oh, there's never going to be a bubble burst again. That's never going to happen. That doesn't seem true. You saw the Fed just a few hours ago hiked rates another 75 basis points. Doesn't seem like they're going to stop. Inflation hasn't been tampered. It's a tough time for everyone, I think, especially what we're going to see in the future. But how do you take advantage of that in a real estate sense? I think it would probably be, wait a little bit longer. And then if you're in the market to buy something, I think we're going to see, once in a few generational buying opportunity coming up here, 6 months to a year. We'll see.
Interesting. And what's it been like sort of watching the market as it's developed over the past little bit? Like you said, not so long ago, people were saying the bubble's never going to burst again. Like, what's the ride been the past couple of years?
I was talking about this with my father today. It's, he was buying buildings for $90,000 for 12 units, those relative to now, those 12 units are at least $100,000 a door. So you're not going to get the same opportunities you've gotten in the past, especially when you have institutional buyers coming into the market like BlackRock who are buying single family homes, and these homes will probably never hit the market as single family again. So I don't know what the solution is, but the free market seems to always work its way out of this. So, I hope we just get this depression over with and then we can have another nice bull run.
And also, like, when it comes to just the Kansas City area, like the housing is an issue sort of across a lot of different metro areas and a lot of different states. What's the housing sort of pressure like in Kansas City? How do you see that?
People from Kansas City would maybe disagree with this, but I think Kansas City is one of the easiest places to live. I mean, if you want to find an apartment, you can go out there, reach out to a few different management companies, find a local owner on Facebook Marketplace. And if you really search hard enough, you're going to get a great deal somewhere you want to be. If you're in New York City right now and you want to get an apartment, forget about it. I mean, it's nearly impossible. So I see Kansas City as a great place to live and a great place to rent and a great place to own. There's still homes you can get a nice house for $250,000 here. Name another big city where you could do that. Absolutely not. I just was in Denver with this guy was telling me about his house. He bought a duplex for $900,000 3 years ago, and now it's worth $1.9 million. I mean, we don't have that problem in Kansas City. Of course, we don't have the mountains to go skiing, but I think there's still, if there's any city with opportunity, Kansas City still has it.
By the way, were you sort of always on a trajectory to sort of enter the family business and go into real estate, or did you ever sort of, at some point when you were in college, be like, no, screw it, I'm going to be a doctor instead. I don't want to do real estate. Like, well, what was that sort of path like for you?
I studied finance in college, and I wanted to be, like a Wolf of Wall Street type guy. And I took a year off after school, and I was teaching ski instructing in Vail. And leading up to that, I worked I was a DJ. So I DJ'd all over college, like 4 nights a week. And I loved that. And I was a pretty big DJ in college. So I knew that if I wanted to get better at being a DJ, I would need to be a music producer. So instead of going the finance route, I went to Los Angeles, went to a music production school. The second one I went to was incredible. And really love music. That's my passion. I've got, a DJ booth built in my house. I'm building a music studio. But while I was there, I worked at an acai infused vodka company, and they ended up pivoting into a venture capital firm. So I ended up getting to be in finance a little bit. And then I was in LA for about 3 years. I went to Burning Man, got caught in a dust storm, thought I was going to die, realized the only thing that mattered were friends and family. And Called my landlord, told him I was leaving, called my boss, told him I quit, was back in Kansas City 72 hours later. It was the best decision I ever made. My boss actually that old boss just ended up marrying Paris Hilton. So that's pretty funny.
Wild. Wow, okay. I did not expect that kind of story when I first asked it. That's like some serious sign from God kind of stuff right there.
Yeah, it was great. And, when I decided moving back to Kansas City that I would use our Kansas City's location as an advantage. Kansas City's literally in the middle of the country. I can be in Colorado in an hour and a half. I can be in LA in 3 hours. I can be in New York in 3 hours. And I travel almost every weekend. So it's good. The only problem is we don't always have direct flights to places from Kansas City. But hopefully when the new airport opens next year, we'll get more flights. But I'm skeptical.
For sure. And you're happy with the music scene in Kansas City? Not missing LA for that?
No, no, the music scene in Kansas City is absolutely terrible. But I recently purchased a building to put a concert venue, the old Apollo Theater. I got a liquor license for that, but I don't quite think the neighborhood is ready. So I'm going to pass on that for the time being. Do like a lounge, maybe restaurant down in the Crossroads. I've got connected through a friend to a guy who actually moved to Kansas City, who ran a bunch of the number one nightclubs in Las Vegas, Omnia, Hakkasan, Let Republic, and he's done clubs all over the world. So I've always kind of been looking for a partner for that. I really just want to do it so I can DJ a place that I like, because there's nowhere here that I really feel comfortable. And then once we get that going, I know a lot of people in the industry that can get the artists that I think Kansas City deserves to have. So no, the music scene here is terrible, but one of the things I decided to do coming back from California is help cultivate that scene, which I haven't done enough yet, but it will come.
Last question for you, sort of speaking on the positives of Kansas City. What's your favorite part of the Kansas City Jewish community specifically?
My favorite part of the Jewish community is how everybody really knows everybody. If you need something done or you need advice from somebody or you're working a deal with somebody in the Jewish community, you're going to know at least 5 other people who are going to know that person or, can tell you, oh, yes, that's a good person, that's a bad person. And I think that there's a few influential figures in the Jewish community that are, just here to help. And you really don't find that in other communities where people just want to help you because they want to help you. I mean, we're really lucky.
The Getting to Know Jew podcast is a product of the Kansas City Jewish Chronicle and the Jewish Federation of Greater Kansas City. It is part of the Jewfolk Podcast Network and produced by Jewfolk Inc. Please rate, review, subscribe, and share. If you have suggestions for future guests, please email the show at webmaster@jewishkc.org.